Hello, my collective community. I am your girl, Two Claps Oracle. And I'm going to get right into this reading because I am hungry. And I did a late night DoorDash order. So my Big Mac meal with a Sprite, extra mac sauce, and a side of nuggets with some honey mustard, it's on the way. And yeah, I don't want it to get cold while I'm doing this reading. But today, I did a session in my real life. I did a session with somebody and we were talking about being stuck in the past. So we're going to get right into this reading, and this reading is called Don't Get Stuck in the Old Testament Season of Your Life. See, let me tell you what happens, right? God had the Bible written and so many people wrote the Bible. Yeah, you know, they tell you take the meat and leave the bones because as we know, 16 books of the Bible were omitted. So we don't even know what they say. So what you do is you take the meat and you leave the bones. But what happens is people need to understand that the book itself is a life lesson. The Old Testament is in reference to the past. The New Testament is the present and the future. Most of us get so caught up in our past lives and past pain that it hinders us getting to the New Testament. Okay, follow me. So there was a book in the Bible, the second book of the Bible, it was called Exodus. That is the book of Moses, right? Where Moses was actually a Hebrew Israelite and he was born a slave, but his mother sent him up the river and an Egyptian picked him up. They adopted him and they raised him as their own. And he was a great son until the day he got the calling on his life to free his original bloodline, which were the Hebrew Israelites. Well, nobody told him that once he tried to free the Hebrew Israelites, it was going to cost him the journey to the land of milk and honey. What a lot of people don't understand about Exodus is that an 11-day trip to the land of milk and honey took 41 years. Why? Because Moses, if you know that story, didn't take the time to keep moving. What he did was he slowed down and tried to drag people along and tried to tell them and force them to understand how good God was. But in reality, the Hebrew Israelites were so ungrateful and so small-minded that what they did was they made false idols. They prayed to other gods. They made up their own gods. They worshiped calves and they started to complain. And it was so bad for them that they wanted to go back to slavery and be with the Egyptians because they missed a lifestyle of slavery, right? If Moses would have freed them and kept moving forward and only let the people who wanted to come with him come, he would have made it to the land of milk and honey. The man sent to free the Hebrew Israelites in the book of Exodus never made it to the promised land. Why? Because it was too many people in the past holding him back. So let me tell you why this correlates to today's reading. I had a person come back into my life that I dated in the 10th grade, gave him his first kiss in the 5th grade. He remembers all of this, has a great memory. When I talked about dating him in the 10th grade and we broke up, I talked to him 5 times since then. I've been out of high school for 17 years. And every time I talk to this young man, whether it be 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, he's always asking me about men, or shall I say boys, from high school. He's always asking me the same questions. Did I date this person? Did I sleep with this person? Do I still talk to this person? He's asking me things about 17 years ago. So the point that I'm making for you today, don't get stuck in the Old Testament. You want things to go back how they were. You want things to be fun like they used to be with your old homegirl and your old coworkers and your brothers and your sisters and your family before you leveled up. You think about your high school sweetheart, your college sweetheart, or the love of your life in the past, and all you can think about is you want that person back. But when you're talking to them, you keep asking yourself, why can't you move forward? You can't move forward because they are part of the Old Testament of your life. They are the book of Exodus and you are in the book of Revelations. You are at the end of your journey and you keep going back to Revelations. One thing that you can say about the Messiah, aka Jesus, he never went backwards. He always went forwards. So let's get into the reading. Past, present, future. Somebody stuck in the past. You did all the shadow work in the past. See, when you were in high school or college or at your old job or in your old life, you attracted people with the same energy that you had. But they didn't know that you were ambitious. They didn't know that you were going to make it far. They doubted your gifts. They doubted how good you were. And they really didn't know that you were going to be the one to break out on your own and attract new and different kind of energies. You were going to move out of your home state. You were going to move out of that small town, and you were going to go on and become something mentally that they couldn't even understand. Because most of the people around you in your past had a small mind. You had a purpose and you had ambition. So you grew past them. But every time you go back home, you forget that you've already done the shadow work. What is the shadow work in this reference to the Old Testament of your life? Not to be confused with the Old Testament of the Bible. Follow me. The Old Testament of your life was about you in the past. Once you left the Old Testament of your life and you started moving to the New Testament, which was the new job, the new state, the new love, the new mindset, and the new growth, you never took the time to think about how your relationships from the past would be affected by the new you. You weren't supposed to, because you had limitless potential. That is all you had. Limitless potential to be ambitious. So once you begin to succeed, and once you broke out from your hometown of those old friends or your old lovers and the old loves, you still kept a place in your heart for them. But you never realized that in the past, when you moved on and moved strong, with no intention of hurting them or leaving them behind, it just happened, you were never going to be able to go back to the people in your home city or your home state or your past love, your past friends, because life had given you too many tests. It had given you too many blessings. It had opened your mindset beyond the level in which you guys met in your past. You were never going to be able to revert back to the relationship and the frequency that you once had with that person. You did the shadow work in the past and didn't even know it. So what I mean by the shadow work, let's use it as Moses. Moses' shadow work was when he killed an Hebrew and fled. He fled into the wilderness and he was picked up by his natural people, and he learned who he really was when he went and found his brother, I believe, Aaron and Miriam. When he went back to Egypt to tell Ramses to let his people go, he didn't understand that he nor Ramses were the same people they were growing up as brothers together. So when he went back, Ramses welcomed him with open arms, but he was different. He had a different mindset, a different agenda, and he was not for slavery, and he understood that he was now a slave. In return, Ramses said, "You got me fucked up." And then they waged a war. Their gods against one God, which is our God. Yahweh, Yahshua, whatever you deem to call him, but the King, Most High God, King of Israel, as they say. So, the present card would be the sanctuary. Moses was constantly at the sanctuary. He would talk directly to God about what he was supposed to do. He went to the burning bush. He was the one that had he did all of the blessings. He did all of the things that made the Egyptians want to kill him and stifle him. Why? Because he was the one that was in the sanctuary with God. God blessed him, kept him, and told him what he was supposed to do. This is your life in the present. You're done with the past. You're done with 20 years ago. You're done with 15 years ago. And your present life is getting you ready to elevate into the future. But you want to go back and you want it to be like it was with your old friends. You don't want to let go of your old love. You want to vibrate back to the past with the people that made you feel good at one time. But what you don't understand is you don't miss the people because you don't know them anymore. You miss the way they made you feel when you guys were on the same level. You're going to waste your time trying to rekindle a connection that is never going to come back because you and those people are no longer the same. They are the Old Testament of your life, and the sanctuary is the present testimony or testament of your life. Why? Move into the future. Because it's the cycles of life. The cycles of life is the past, the present, and the future. And God tells us, be anxious for nothing. Don't think about the past. Move beyond the past. Stay in the present and be anxious for nothing, and don't look to the future. Because when you look to the future or you look to the past, you might get exactly what you want. And if you go somewhere that is not called for you to be there, it is still out of alignment. You did the work when you left your small town years ago. You did the work when you took the new job. You did the work when you had a child. You did the work when you got married. You did the work before you even got on your spiritual journey. You're never going to be able to go back and smoke and drink and dance and club and laugh and joke with all of your old friends. Life has taken us all in different directions. You've done the work. You go back to the past, you go back too far, you go back to snakes. I'm going to tell you now, don't waste your time going back to the past, because no matter what you do, it's not going to work. You're going to be stuck in a cycle of you and another person sitting up talking about high school, sitting up talking about college, sitting up talking about how things used to be. And that will get old. And then one day you're going to ask yourself, why can't we connect in the present moment? Because they're not supposed to be in your present day. There is nothing you can do, nor they can do, to come into alignment if your path crossed in the Old Testament of your life. Your present moment is the sanctuary, and so is theirs. Nobody's wrong in this situation. You're supposed to move on. They're supposed to move on. You're going in different directions. You're going to waste your time getting to the land of milk and honey like Moses if you keep trying to drag people along with you, when the both of you are chasing old energy and old emotions when things were fun and good. Make a list of the people that you want back and ask yourself, what is it that you missed about them? If they are all worldly, fun, they made me feel good, key things, let them go. Why? Because you're almost headed into a new cycle. And the cycles of life are ever changing. Don't get stuck in the second book of the Bible when God has already placed you in the new heaven and earth, which is in Revelations. Y'all have a good night. My DoorDash here.